Welcome back to another episode of the Your Good News podcast. It is me, your host, Katherine Getty. This episode is, a chapter ending and a new one beginning. Year one, season one of the Your Good News podcast is coming to a close in this episode. So for every guest, every listener, every well-wish, thank you. This dream of sharing the good that is created around us each day was, for a long time, just that, a dream. I am so grateful I took the jump because I have been humbled by the support and inspired for the future. Year two, here we go. When I sat down last year, I really imagined that each week I would bring you good. But I realized as this year anniversary came up that I wanted to take some time to recharge. I wanted to listen to my inner voice on the direction of this podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome. The last year has been a collection of interviews and solo episodes on good news, thoughts for a purposeful life, and so much more. From my nephew on sharks to a Capitol police officer on the value of service to nonprofit leaders telling their stories and so many other amazing guests, I realized I wanted to share even more of what really drove me to start this podcast, to tap into a place that might be a bit scary for myself. I started this podcast because I felt inundated by the bad news of 2020. Like many of us, it was all COVID, all needed conversations, and all politics all the time. And while I won't be touching on COVID in year two, who knows anymore, I do want to dive into politics. Stay with me now. Now, for one moment, I don't want this to be taken that government is the only venue to create good. I believe, though, it has to be a part of the solution. And if you've listened before or joining again for the first time, I'll reshare. I am a political nerd. I live in Washington, D.C., and I love that fact. Some of my first memories, honestly, as a child, was listening to NPR in my dad's car on the way to school and hearing stories of what's happening in Washington or what law was happening or what debate was occurring. And I remember my mom and dad a few years later, politically on opposite sides of the aisle when it comes to education, talking about deep policy issues as we had insert meal. I remember watching West Wing and thinking, could that be me? Could my version of public service be somewhere in DC? And fast forward, I do live in DC. Like I said, it's been 9 years, which is kind of crazy to say. And I have fallen even more in love with this country. Warts and all. And boy, do we have warts and things that we need to fix. I believe strongly that each of us are vital to our democracy. Our voices are stronger, I think more so, even when we disagree. So for year two, I want to share updates on what's happening in Washington, how to get politically involved, from registering to vote to understanding campaign finance. How do you wage a complaint with a member of Congress, and so much more. I want to peel back the curtain of Washington and give you tangible ways to engage with our democracy. There is so much good that happens in Washington, D.C. I hope you'll join me on this next chapter, this continuation of a dream of highlighting the good, and actively participating in our democracy. So over the next month, August 2022, if you're listening in real time, I'm going to plan, prep, and record. I'll be back in September 2022 with new episodes, new guests, new good news from DC. In the meantime, reach out to me via Instagram at Katherine Getty is my handle, or via my email, support@yourgoodnewspodcast.com. Don't worry, that will be in the show notes, to share your questions, ideas, etc. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. I'll never be able to put into words what this year has meant to me, to be able to see so much good around us and be able to share it. It has been my honor, and I am so excited. So here's year two of the Your Good News podcast.